Say that.
Go ahead and call to order the USD489 Board of Education Board meeting for Monday, April 8th, 2019. I don't know about you all, but it's nice outside and the NCAA tournament's going on, so let's rock this out. All right, approval of agenda.
Make a motion. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll second you. Go ahead.
Make a motion. Go ahead and approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Warney, seconded by Board Member Adams. Any discussion? Motion passes 6-0. Any audience participation this evening? Nope. Moving on, we will have the Hayes High Site Council presentation.
Okay, this will be the annual presentation of our Hayes High Site Council. I am Stuco President Peyton Thorell.
I am the Stuco Vice President, Cheyenne Shoemaker.
I'm Site Council President Rob Kennemer.
I'm Marty Strabo, principal.
So up on the screen, you will see the link to the Hayes High website. And this is where students, parents, or members of the community can access many different things through our website. That will lead to many different resources and different calendars and student life that people can access.
Good.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate this. I'm going to go over how we run our meetings. We typically have monthly meetings. We take a couple of months off for holidays and stuff like that. But first up is the roster. And our roster is probably bigger than most site council rosters. And the reason for that is, I believe is our site council is kind of like a bridge between the community and the school. At the meetings, we get a lot of accurate, valuable information. And the more people that are there to hear that and take it out in the community, the more chance there is that there will be accurate information out in the community. And also, the more ears there are out in the community, we can hear things, bring it back to site council, let administration or whatever know what we hear from outside. So it's a really good two-way path, I guess, for everybody. So the next slide is basically how we run our meetings. We have standing committee reports, and those reports are, we get a report about the Kansas Board of Regents, so we get any information about colleges, and then specifically about Fort Hays. We have an academic booster club representative. They give us information about what they're doing throughout the year. Most of the things that they do, they raise funds, and their two main things are to have activities to celebrate academic excellence, and then they offer scholarships at the end of the year. And then the fine arts boosters, we just get updates on band, choir, and orchestra as far as what activities they do, how well people are doing at state and regional and things like that. And then we have a Hayes High staff report, and that is given by staff members at the school. They update us on different things that happen in classes they're exceptional or out of the ordinary. So those are always nice things to hear, and there's a lot of positive things that actually happen at school that is outside of just classwork. Next is the student report, and that is given by Stuco officers, and it is unbelievable what students do outside of class. I mean, the kids, the two people behind me report to us, and they have a lot of school activities they do, and then they do a lot of community things too. So there's a lot of good things. Also, it's really good for students to have to stand up and do this kind of thing, because this is really a difficult thing. So as a student, if they get used to it, it's a really valuable skill. Next thing we have is principal's report, and that is basically Mr. Straub giving us information about anything that he feels is valuable for us to hear. And then finally, we have either guest presenters or special topics, and those are, we have different ones each month. And so what we're going to do now is give you just highlights of each of those special topics or guest speakers. So we're going to start with Cheyenne and Peyton, and they're going to talk about special things that happened in September.
Okay, one topic that we talked about in September was the new Dell computers, and we have really good feedback for those. They are very durable. We like them a lot better than the Surfaces, and we feel the battery life is a lot better. So we really enjoyed the new Dell computers. And then another topic is the grab and go cart, which that's something that I really enjoy because it's really easy to walk in the morning. You don't have to go all the way to the lunchroom and sit down and eat your meal. You can bring it to your first hour in just a little paper sack, and you can eat it while you're in class, and it's really convenient for everyone, and I really think everyone enjoys that.
This year we were fortunate enough to introduce a lot of new clubs, one specifically being the new chess club, which has competed in many different competitions this year and actually took, I believe, was it fifth?
Second 5A.
Second in the 5A tournament this year. We also introduced a lot of new teachers to the building. For example, we have Mr. Hickel and Mr. Lundmark from the history department, Mr. Dickerson from the science department, Mr. Crow and Hutchins from kind of the physical ed department. We have Hibbs and Hart for the business department, Underwood for music, Mr. Lynn and Mr. Cranwitter as administration, and Mr. Dale as a counselor.
And then this next slide is the enrollment charts. In 2013 through 14, that was our lowest, and as of now, we're expecting to rise through the upcoming years.
At our October meeting, our special topics were discussing the ACT scores, and the class of 2018 tied with the second highest composite ACT score. And the year before that actually had the highest one. So the scores are really high at Hayes High, and everybody's proud of the scores. We also were introduced to Mr. John Lynn, who is the new assistant principal, and Mr. Lance Cranwitter, the assistant principal AD. They both gave backgrounds, where they've been and everything, and it just seems like they're really good people, and they have a lot of experience that they bring to the school. So it's very nice to have them on board. The last thing, on the October, there was just the foundation's trainer was at the school, and there was just a comment that she made that is worth putting up. And she said that you should can this and teach other schools how high schools should be. So she was really impressed with how the high school runs. And so now, Mr. Straub.
Part of what we do a little bit at each one of our site council meeting is refresh our parents and our students and our staff members about the KISA process. And the site council was instrumental in helping us develop our guiding principles and the term pride. If you visit our library or come get some coffee on Maroon Mornings, you'll see that we proudly present that on the pillars. And really, it's kind of a play on words too, because those are the pillars for what we stand for. Relationships and relevance are our goals for our school, as well, obviously, as the district. And we really feel that extracurricular activities and getting kids involved in our school does increase a sense of belonging, can improve relationships, and hopefully, because of that, improve performance in our schools.
For the month of November, we introduced the free ACT and ACT work keys tests that were taken this year in February. Each junior had the opportunity to take either the ACT work keys, or both for free through the Kansas education system.
And at our meeting in November, we had Mr. Johnny Matlock come speak about JAG-K for us, which is Jobs for American Graduates, and the K stands for Kansas. I learned a bunch of new information about this. I think what Johnny does is a great program for those kids and teaches them a lot of new skills.
At our February meeting, the topics were, first of all, staffing, and I guess there were a few positions that were available that Mr. Straub had discussed with us. And from a personal standpoint, I had an opportunity to sit in on an interview for a position at school, and it is incredible how much effort and thought goes into trying to find the right person to fit into the school that will do the absolute best for the students at Hayes High. So it was a very good experience for me. Our guest presenters at that meeting were the Hayes High counselors. There are 3 of them at the school. The alphabet is divided up into thirds, and each one of them have a third of the alphabet. And the bullet points are their main jobs, I guess. But what I notice is, I guess I've spent some time in there, and I just know that they work tirelessly to provide support for students and to give them the best chance at success that there is. And it is amazing to me that they may sit with a student and plan out a career path, and then the next student they sit with may sit down and plan out how to get through the day. So it is incredible, the diversity of scenarios that they have to work with, and they just do a very nice job. So Hayes High is very lucky. I've got one more. At our March meeting, Mr. John Lynn was our special presenter, and he talked to us about school safety, and he talked to us about the drills that the school has to do, and it is incredible the amount of coordination that it takes to put together a drill, either evacuation or lockdown. And nowadays, I guess a fire drill is not an automatic evacuation drill, so there's a lot of things that have to go into thinking about how best to handle a situation, and so they went through all the thought processes of how those drills are run. He also discussed the proposal on how to improve safety at Hayes High, and the 2 things that he talked about are the doors and the locks at the school. I think there are over 260 doors and locks in the high school, and all those locks have to be replaced because all the locks lock from the outside, and so there's no way of locking from the inside, so all the locks will be replaced. There's also a diagram that is kind of describes what's going to happen at the high school, and the way I understand it is all traffic after school has started will be funneled to the left, and then they will be funneled either by or through the office, so everybody knows who is in the school.
Again, a big part of our KISA presentation during the month of March was to focus on drafts of the action plans that we had processed with students, with staff, and then again with our site councils. So I know you have it in front of you, and in lieu of reading all that, basically the idea is to improve relationships and to improve relevance of the instruction in our school. We really think those 2 fit well together. If we can do one well, we will do the other one well. So yeah, that was the other part of that presentation. Okay.
The last thing I want to talk about is meetings that are coming up. I guess there's just one. We had our April 3rd meeting last Wednesday, and so we have just our May 1st meeting, and at that meeting we will elect officers, discuss any topics that we would like to talk about in the next year. And we're rolling through this, so I'm gonna do a short story, and it does have relevance, so hang in there, okay? Our family are dog lovers, and so this is a little bit of a dog story. Our dog needs his nails trimmed fairly regularly. When we do it, it takes 3 of us to do. There's one that holds the dog down, one that holds the paw, and one to cut the nails. So generally we take it to the vet, and when he goes to the vet, our dog stands on the table. The vet grabs his paw and clips his nails, and it takes about 5 minutes. And one time when it was being done, I was standing there in awe, and I asked the vet how he did that. And he smiled and said, "We have an understanding." And that understanding is based on trust and respect. And there's a similar understanding at the high school. Mr. Straub has created a culture of respect and trust, and it runs deeply throughout the entire school. It is, I guess it's pretty amazing how positive and how much of a encouraging environment there is at the school. And I think it gives students the best chance of success. I know that the people that are at school work tirelessly to give kids the best opportunity they can. And as a parent, I'm proud to be involved at the school, and I think Hayes High is a really good place to be. So, guys, have anything?
Do you have any questions for us? I'll tell you, I think the site council is a diamond in the rough for principals. You know, it's really open topic. We certainly have structure, and we're all prepared going in, but the discussion goes however the parents wanted to, students or the staff. And we started asking our leaders from student council to be part of our site council, I think 3 years ago. And I think it's been a very positive change. One night, I don't remember which, we had both our president and vice president out there to facilitate the meeting. So I asked my Stuco sponsors, my Stuco kids, would you guys facilitate the meeting? You know, that's a good experience for them. You know, we can talk about being elected to a position, but if you don't actually get to practice it, then that's not much leadership in my book. So
You'd be ready to sit on this side of the table. Want to switch?
I have no doubt that these students will absolutely be very, very involved. Cheyenne has just taken every one of our PEP assemblies, and somebody said the other day, by the way, probably the most excited our PEP rallies have been since my freshman year, and this was a senior speaking. I also want to speak up for Peyton, too. Peyton, I just got an email this last weekend from Rod Gorman from Keisha, and Peyton will be one of 16 kids in the state of Kansas that will be a counselor at the Stuco Leadership Council this summer camp. So it's a week-long effort. We just, you know, the kids, if you do things with purpose and communicate to them, they'll come ask you, but I think that's a compliment. I think it's a compliment when kids come say, why are we doing this, or can we do this? We don't always say yes, but we have good reason when we say no, and I think that's part of the respect that we can show one another. Tell me no or tell me yes, but have a good reason for why we do those things. But awesome young people here, and there's 800 of them out of our place. So thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, I want to say something real quick. I've been on various site councils, like most folks here probably, and I'm actually surprised how many people are on the Hayes High Site Council. Once in a while, you have maybe 10 people, 5 or 6 people at a school. I'm surprised how many people want to be involved in the site council at Hayes High. So that's I think, a positive note. Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. All right, moving on to school spotlights.
I get the pleasure of identifying one of the spotlights ties into the broadcasting program, Dan Ballman's program, and the students that he brings to every board meeting. So to try to give them a little bit of recognition is fantastic for their accomplishments. They ended up placing many of them at state at the Association of Broadcasters competition. And I want to just read off the names of those. The state champions in radio were Isaiah Schindler, Carson Ackerman, Tommy Brooks, and Adrian Dries. In TV, first place was Alicia Fairhern, Allison Brooks, Carson Ackerman, and the Tribe Sports team. Then the state runners-up, the second place, we had Carson Ackerman, Maddie Lohmeyer, Derek Aragon, Cami Young, Alicia Fairhern, Claire Shippey, Fernando Zerati, Zoe Buffington, Josh Haynes, and Maddie Lohmeyer, Megan Flavin. And then third place finishers in radio and TV was Derek Aragon, Carson Ackerman, Megan Flavin, and Marshall Perryman. So the team placed second overall at state composition. USD489 is incredibly proud of all these talented students, and Tribe Broadcasting team is sponsored by teacher Dan Ballman, who has done a fantastic job. Very proud of them. O'Laughlin Elementary, they've collected donations for the victims at the Nebraska floods. Students and staff at O'Laughlin Elementary School collected donations for food for flood victims in Nebraska last week. Cleaning supplies, gloves, bottled water, towels, blankets, clothes, and toiletry items were all collected. The items were delivered to Nebraska on Friday evening by teacher Caitlin Unruh, who spearheaded the project with her kindergarten students. Then we had Hayes High FFA giving back to the community service. Hayes High School FFA students recently completed community service in the form of packaging 10,000 meals. The meals will be given to area families who are in need of assistance. Thank you to all the HHS FFA students for paying it forward through service learning. FFA is sponsored by teacher Kurt Viner. And then we do have Hayes High Senior earns all state honors. Congratulations to high school senior Savannah Schneider for being named to the 5A Kansas Basketball Coaches Association all-state team. Schneider was an honorable mention selection and averaged 13 points per game. And we have seniors awarded the Hanson Scholarship. 26 high school seniors were awarded. We wanted to congratulate 6 seniors that were chosen as Hanson Scholars. That was Isabel Brown, Rebecca Porter, Kaylee Ashball, Alexandria Hagerman, Cameron Carlin, Cordelia Isbell, and Callie Leiker. These seniors will receive $6,500 stipend for 1 year, and that can be renewed an additional 3 years. Then there was 9 seniors who selected as Hanson students: Landon Crispin, Katie Vaughn, Spencer Whitcorn, Emma Brungert, Cage Swain, Scout Perryman, Connor Teggett, Addison Albers, and Cole Schroeder. Congratulations to these students. They receive $4,000 stipends that's renewable for 1 additional year. Rachel Taylor was chosen as Technical College Transfer Scholarship. She'll receive $4,000 stipend, and that's renewable for 1 additional year. And then there's 9 seniors that were also chosen as Career and Technical Education Scholarship recipients. Congratulations to them. That's Natalie Figueroa Rodriguez, Kelby Schoendaler, Creighton Myers, Colton Schoendaler, Carly Billinger, Kyle Casper, Elise Hausman, Keaton Schleifly, and Tristan Weber. These seniors are receiving $4,000, and that can be renewed for an additional year. We ended up having Midwest Energy awarding a grant to the USD489 Migrant Education Program. Want to thank them for the $500 grant this spring. The grant funding is going to be used to purchase additional educational materials for the district's migrant students. Thank you for Starlo Gano, the Migrant Education Program Coordinator, for applying for the grant. And the Lincoln 5th grade class fundraiser for local charities. We had Monica Dreiling and her students held a Beanie Buddy fundraiser this spring. Students earned a total of $859. $90 is going to be donated to the historical Fort Hayes to purchase paper candle lantern for the Christmas past celebration. $300 of those dollars is going to be donated to the Community Assistance Center to restock their supplies, and $469 donated to USD489 Hope Pantry for food and hygiene boxes for district families.
Thank you. We'll move on to report of superintendent.
Yeah, the report that I was to share is really dealing with the budget, but the fact is most of you are aware that House has dealt with it, the Senate's dealt with it, the governor has signed. I mean, those are things that have happened, and a lot of people are talking a lot about that. The fact, though, is we're waiting till next week because you still have the judicial part that has to weigh in. And there can be a lot of talk, but I don't, you're in a position of really waiting for that to settle out. And so if anybody's asking, if anybody is saying, well, where are you at with this process, I assure you we are talking as well, trying to do planning, but all of that is cautiously being done at this point, just because it really has to go through another hoop, and that's a hoop I just don't know at this point, and really I don't think anybody truly knows what's going to happen in the next week or two. So that's one piece. There's another part of this that I want people to know ends up being, I do not think people quite understand the significance of not just the amount of money, okay, or that they're possibly have the money in April maybe instead of June or July. But more a matter of saying that they have a plan for 4 years. And I'm saying that because the opportunity that exists when you end up knowing what your budget is ahead of time. We have had years where school districts have, they find out what the budget is actually weeks before they're supposed to have the budget into the state office. And I do mean just weeks. So you plan and not really knowing, and as I had talked to Keith earlier, he brings up a great point. You know what? We always play it safe. You play it safe. You got to do that. You play it safe because basically you don't know to the end what you have. If we have 4 years and we know what the money is, if we really do, there really can be some budgeting. There can be some real planning that has not existed. Actually, never, in the 12 years I've been a superintendent, it's never been that way. Never having the real comfort level of knowing what the money is in advance and trying to really have some plans of utilizing that money. The other thing that happens, and I think because of the way the budgeting is, and I'm just sharing some of my thoughts that I think has some importance, but the other piece ends up being because of how it's done, you end up being in a situation where you would like to take care of things that have kind of mounted over years. Maybe you have not enough money in your capital outlay, or you don't have enough contingency money, or you don't have, I mean, there can be different, or there's positions that you know you need to fill and you just haven't because you just didn't feel there was money. You're trying to fill those positions and really do a better job of covering these different areas. There are many different ways to try to make your business, your organization healthier financially, okay? And sometimes when you get into the mode where you just know what the money is weeks before you have to turn in your budget, and really sometimes you don't really know what that is until about that time. I don't know if we do the best, we haven't done the best of jobs of taking care of some of those problems, some of those issues that have mounted. What I'm getting at is an opportunity exists for every district in the state, and I don't know if there's a lot of talk on that. I don't know if people are really recognizing the significance of having 4 years of a budget, of really working with and trying to end up. Hayes is so much better than it was 6 years ago. There was some real tight times there, and they did a great job of doing what they had to make it work. But it's been very slow making some of those steps to get to a really healthy budget again. And even at this point, I'd have to say, we've got years still to work on that to end up being in a spot where we would be compared with others and say that we are healthy in that case. And so I would say it is going to be every superintendent, every director of finance, everybody in the state who's dealing with the budgets for this year. If this does move forward the direction it is, I would say they're having an opportunity that is golden, something that is quite different and should be taken with excitement as far as how they can end up planning for the next 4 years in that case. I want to throw out, and I think you do know, that in my 12 years, I think we had, I know it was 3, there may have been even 4 of those 12 years, that when we got into the year, maybe even February, some of that money was even pulled back. So even though we were given the budget, somewhere in the middle of the year, money was actually taken back from the districts. So I'm just saying it's really a different setting. It doesn't matter how much the money is, just to end up saying we know what the budget could be for a series of 4 years. Any questions on that? Okay. That would be all.
Sean? Moving on to the consent agenda, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented here in front of us, and I went back through the personnel transactions and I didn't see any notable retirements unless I missed something.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member O'Borney. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we'll move on to old business. We'll have representatives from Nabholz and Paul Wernberger Construction to give us an update on the Oak Park Medical Complex.
Yeah, very pleased to have Matt Allen is present, and Russ Beffert, forgive me. The two of them are here to end up sharing, give an idea of where we are. We have pictures that we've been trying, Sarah's been doing a nice job of obtaining pictures and trying to keep the public kind of understanding what's happening out there. When you end up having other construction projects, sometimes people can drive by and see a building rising, and it's really exciting. In this case, the building, you're not going to see much change at all on the outside, but boy, the inside has changed tremendously in just the last few weeks. So I'll give this to Matt to share what's happening at this time.
Sure. Appreciate you having us here. Yeah, just a little bit of an update of where we're at. Obviously, demolition work is underway on 3 of the buildings. We just took possession of the 4th building last week, so we haven't really got anything underway on that one. But again, based on our preliminary progress schedule, we're well ahead the game in as far as the demolition, and we've even started back on some of the rebuild work in buildings 1 and 4, which would be, if you're not familiar with it, it's the 2 east buildings. The one larger one in the north east smaller one. So these pictures maybe don't depict that, but I know we had a progress meeting a couple weeks ago where several of the staff and a couple of the board members were able to tour the site just to kind of see how things were going along. That's where some of these pictures here are from. So overall, I think we were pleasantly pleased. We discussed this at our meeting too, that a large portion, a majority of the work and the subcontractors and the suppliers that are involved in this project are from the Hayes community. I think that was something we wanted to touch on tonight to bring that to everybody's attention, that we took competitive bids on all these scopes, and it came back to where a lot of this, all these monies are going to stay in the community, and I think that's an important point to bring up. So, any questions you have for myself or Russ?
Yeah, I was reading through the field report that came up. It said we're estimate percentage completion is 5%. Is that on target to get us ready for August?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It was in the architect's field report that we received.
Yes.
And it said estimated percentage completion is 5%. I was wondering, does that put us on target for August?
Right, and it's really a monetary thing as far as overall. It's not necessarily progress as far as work completed, but it's based on the overall contract amount and what that reflects back to our our pay application, so it's more of a monetary thing. But like I said, I would venture to say that a lot of the work that we had on our schedule, we're actually ahead of the game right now, so.
Ahead of the game on that. That's good.
I've been out to visit the job site twice, and everything is commensurate with what you'd expect to see on this project. About a week and a half ago, we were still working on demo. I came in today and they're doing MEP and doing infill rankings. Very pleased with progress. I think we're right on track.
Yeah. And there were no surprises inside the building had in terms of like real problems or anything, pretty much?
Not initially, no. We really haven't found anything that was out of the ordinary that we didn't know about, so.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to mention is, because obviously Mike and I were the ones, the board members, that got to help tour some of this, is even for the public or even for the board members, those shipping containers that are sitting out front, those have a lot of supplies that we've salvaged from this. And that was one of the big things when Sophie and I toured. It's like, oh man, these doors or this. We have a whole container that's full of the ceiling tiles, you know, because they're in good shape and it's something we can reuse, or hinges, or I'm trying to think of some of the other equipment and stuff we've salvaged. But I also know Rusty went through the building then as well with a lot of staff, and we've taken out a lot of things that can be used in our other buildings as well. So I hate to use the word salvage, but I'm going to call it that. The salvage and the frugalism is there, and I'm very pleased with that, because it was one of my, I don't want to say concerns, but it was one of the things, I mean, if it isn't broke, let's not fix it. There's stuff here we can reuse, and they've done a great job. And so, you know, seeing those shipping containers, driving by how many times I didn't really know what it was, and then during that trip I got, oh, that's awesome, because that was something I really wanted to see. Either salvage and resell it, or salvage and reuse, and that's happening, so.
And I appreciate you saying that. I want to also point out, when you did your tour, you would have seen some walls that had demo on it, and then others that didn't, and when you walk through, it was a maze in those buildings. The number of just offices and just the number of walls, trying to create classrooms was really a puzzle. And I just have to compliment again the work that went into the architects of looking at it. What they wanted to do, which I would want to do as well, is just clean it out. Just tear it all out and start over again. But as far as money-wise, they ended up really working to try to save as many walls as they could, tried to end up patching it in, and really it really, I think, is speeding up the process in one way, but then also just a matter of helping with that budget in the process, trying to make it work. If you look in some of the pictures, you don't just see the demolition, you're seeing some heating and air work that's being done, you see some plumbing that's being done. If you look at it close, it's really fun to see, you know, all the different aspects happening at the same time of making that come together. But it's also very easy to see, these pictures are of 3 different buildings. So there's different levels. One building really is going to be done first. There will be a second one that will be second. They're not going to be completed at the same time. There's going to be, and that's why we already said August 3rd for a ribbon cutting. So we have a ribbon cutting set for August 3rd. We do know that it may be just one building, you know, but it could be 2 at that point. But we're very optimistic. It's coming along very well at this time. Other questions board members may have? If you haven't walked through, the pictures don't do it justice. It would be really great if there was an opportunity in the next week or 2 for you to tour the building. That'd be great.
And who should we talk to if we want to do that?
That would be, you can talk to Rusty, you can talk to myself, you can end up talking to, Scott would help you out as well.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Great.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the Hayes High School and Hayes Middle School safe entrance bids. Did anybody have any additional questions from the last time? You weren't here last time.
I was here the time before and tried to give you sort of what was going to take place, and that the bid was going to come in while I was gone. I heard there was a question about the bid not being attached to it. That was an oversight on our part. I believe you all have that now.
Sarah got it to us right after.
And then that was about the only thing that I knew for sure. So I basically, if you've got questions tonight, or if you want me to run over any part of it, I'd be happy to.
And this does not, I saw, because I saw the one quote had the deal, this does not include cameras.
That's correct.
This is just the, okay.
Does anybody have any additional questions?
I don't.
Someone like to make a motion?
Sure.
Not everybody at once.
I would make a motion to approve, looks like option one,
It's gonna do.
approval of commercial builders as the low bidder for the Hayes High and Hayes Middle School secured entrance project.
I'll second.
And moved by Board Member Borney, second by Board Member Walker. Is there any additional discussion or comments at this point?
I guess I just want to say thank you. I mean, I know, Rusty's been a big part of this, but we also know the foundation, was a big part of this with their fundraiser and everything else. And there's been a lot of people involved with this, and it's just great to see such concern and such community involvement for our schools. So.
Anything else? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign, or nay, rather. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Moving on next, Hayes High School Special Systems renovation bids.
Madam President, I'm going to call a conflict of interest since I am employed by Next Tech.
Peace out.
I know this one came in while I was gone also, and Scott visited with part of it. Is there questions, anything that I need to follow up on that, or?
Rusty, could you do me the favor?
No.
Yeah, of just identifying again what this is. I mean,
Okay,
I think it's important enough to outline it because there's been some confusion as to what it's for.
okay. How this started, and to recap what I talked about 2 board meetings ago, our infrastructure as far as our clock system that we use to synchronize our clocks between classrooms, our intercom system, and phone system are pretty much the original to the building when they started, and they're all well outdated. The phone system is probably the most, it's going to be the hardest one as far as trying to continue the life of it. It's past its life and it's not being supported anymore. We have started having problems with some of the software on it as far as being able to do voicemail or caller ID, and when Next Tech came to look at it, they didn't really want to mess with it because they were afraid if they did, they'd actually make it worse and we would be without a phone system. So due to the age of it, that's what started the steps forward. Well, in the meantime, the clock system started to cause us problems, and the clock system is what was managing our HVAC and stuff through contactors and stuff. I went and replaced part of that to digital controlled, but some of that's still supported through the clock system. So even though we have new equipment, we've got old equipment managing it, and some of our failures this year have been because of the clock system, the simplex clock system, that's creating some of those failures. So while we were doing the phone system, we're going to be pulling cabling. We looked at everything that could be involved in that infrastructure upgrade. So while we're pulling the cabling for the phone system, we could be pulling the cabling to take care of the clock system, the intercom system, and then the camera system's another piece of that needs to be looked at the same time. So we were looking at pulling all that infrastructure because we're going to have the same raceways, the same areas that we're using to wire for intercom and clock and for phone. We might as well be catching the cameras and get all that taken in there. So the first part of this was actually just to get the infrastructure in place to support the camera system that we're looking at and what phone system we look at. Part of the confusion on that was the engineer that helped put this together put out a addendum to look at getting costs for like on the camera system and phone system. And that created some confusion because we never looked at actually funding that, because I don't have the budget to fund it right now. It was going to have to be funded out of the next year. So Scott and I's initial was to get the infrastructure in place, because we know that's what we need to support whichever way we go. Then to start looking at the phone system and the candor system. But we have equipment in place to take care of the intercom and what we need to do as far as HVAC needs. So we were going to go ahead and get that updated with this while we're pulling the infrastructure in for the phone and the camera system. And I hope I haven't muddied that water too much, that made sense, but this is just the first steps to correcting the main problem, which is the phone system at the high school.
And really, what Rusty's describing, I want the board to know, when we feel we do have the money, it'll be so much easier to get it done quickly with the wiring all done, everything that's pulled, and it's ready at that point. So we haven't even talked about having the budget even for next year. That's not been a discussion. We don't know when it'll be, but we also know that there's the possibility that we could get into the school year next year and have a catastrophic issue with our phones. I mean, that is a possibility. And so they're just trying to ready it so that it'll be as quick or as fast whenever that time comes that we have the money or feel that we have to do something.
So if you're saying when we have the money, so this $130,000 that is on this bid here, so we don't have that money budgeted, and
We have, no,
That money's budgeted.
That's for the wiring.
that's just for the wiring.
Yes.
That's wiring, and then
What is
the intercom system upgrade and the clock upgrade. The wiring and the intercom, correction to the intercom system and to the clock system are in that $130,000.
And
The only
so
thing
the
that's not in
cameras
that
are not.
$130,000 is the cameras, and the phones are not in that.
But the phones are the most catastrophic thing that we're worried
The
about. and we don't
phones are
have a bid on those.
the biggest failure point that we're looking at right at the moment.
All right, I'm confused then. Why don't we have a bid on the phones?
Because we were looking at two different options on the phones. We're looking at either purchasing them outright or leasing them, and we were wanting to investigate that, and we felt like this summer we're going to be looking at getting the infrastructure in place and then looking at that, and then it was my intent to come back to you right at the start of the fall to start addressing what we're going to do with the phones themselves. Regardless of what we do with the phones, this infrastructure's got to be in place first.
Rusty, as far as the infrastructure on here, because I know several years back we did all the access points, and in fact, I think you may have even, I don't remember if you were here or not, with all the wireless and the other stuff on there, but
Right.
I mean, is that not something that we can have some of our people at least try to help somewhat with over the summer? I mean, it just $130,000 for cabling is a lot.
I get that. There's two pieces to that. You heard high school talk about the lock upgrade that we're doing. You're going to be seeing that here in the next board meeting. They said 260 some locks at the high school. It's actually closer to 290. There's another close to 100 at Roosevelt, and there's another probably 130 at the middle school. You'll be seeing the bid on that to replace all those, so that's going to have us tied up with replacing locks. With Oak Park, I know Scott's going to be in the middle of that because while the conduits and avenues into the walls for the network are there, the actual infrastructure part of that's not. So he's going to be, and my electrician are going to be tied up with that part as far as pulling wire and stuff on Oak Park. The materials were there, but the labor cost was not there, so I know that's going to have us tied up on that. So we've got other summer projects that have already got us committed to the summer without being able to take this piece of it on.
With Oak Park, though, would it not make more sense? I mean, if we have electricians out there pulling the other stuff, would it not make sense to have them pull the Cat 5 and everything as well? I mean, usually you're not looking at a whole
Are
lot
we
more
going,
money.
I don't disagree with that as long as you're on board with the extra expense there.
I mean, there can't be too much extra expense. They're already pulling the cable anyway. So
I-
that's the only reason
I'm not disagreeing with you, and that was the same, I guess, my same position on this. while we're upgrading the intercoms and doing the clock system, they're going to be pulling wire anyway, so it's the same thing. It just depends on which project you want to put us onto, as opposed, in my mind, there are more systems involved with the high school than there would be at Oak Park, and I think it would be easier for us to deal with one system than to deal with multiple systems that are there.
Well, and it's not just the multiple, it's also a matter that you have a stripped-down area that it's easier to lay the wiring in Oak Park than high school is going to be more of a professional-grade job of trying to do it and do it well and do it fast. So that was part of the conversation.
I have a question. I understand what you're trying to do, but I think I might be confused by the...
Well, I'm thinking we've got a wrong number. No, we're correct. I have the wrong number. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You're fine. I don't know if it's just wording or if I'm just didn't drink enough coffee today, but with respect to the alternate bid number 1, Next Tech does not have a qualified bid for the security system. That's just saying that there's not a bid, or is that saying that their wiring isn't going to work with the security camera?
Now repeat that again.
The camera system that they plan on using was not listed as an approved manufacturer in the bid document.
Again, take the camera systems at alternate 1, and that's at $76,210 that Next Tech has listed there. And if you look at the other ones, alternate 1 under RDH is $122,000, and then under the other electric company, it's $132,182. That was put in by the engineer just to get basically a budget figure so that we know what to look at with the cameras, but it was not intended to be part of this bid. So that's why you're seeing the $129,337.77 is what we're actually bringing into you to get approval on.
Okay, that cleared it up. I was confused by the alt one and I didn't look at that, so thank you.
So again, the plan is to, if we were to move ahead with this work to be finished this summer and ready to go for the fall.
Correct.
Be out of the way for the fall.
The clock system will be taken care of this summer. The intercom system will be taken care of this summer. The infrastructure will be in place for the camera system and the phone system. The phone system is going to be the first piece that we address because it's the highest failure point. We'll be bringing a recommendation in as to how we want to do that and be looking at those recommendations while this work's going on. The camera system, there's a camera system in place. It's needing to be replaced, but it's something that we can still get parts for. But while we were pulling the wire, we just wanted to get it all in place at that time. The camera system doesn't necessarily need to be addressed next year, and it could actually be addressed in pieces if we wanted to, because we could fill in the areas that we don't have cameras and work backwards to replace what we have. So we wouldn't have to take that cost all at once. The phone system would be the one that, when we make that move, that's going to be a total cost.
Thanks.
Yep.
I have just one more question, and a few weeks ago, I didn't vote for the technology to move ahead, the $250,000 for the iPads for the middle school. And it wasn't because I don't think we need those, and it wasn't because I don't think that's something that needs to be fixed. My problem with voting on some of these things to move forward is that I don't understand if this is the greatest need for that building, the district, at this point in time. And so that's why I voted against the technology a few weeks ago, and while I'm hesitant now too, because I don't know if this $130,000 is the greatest need for Hayes High or for anywhere else in the district at this point.
From a buildings and grounds point, and that's the only way that I'm going to be able to talk to you at this point with that building. There's a need there to take care of that, not just simply from the phone standpoint, but we're trying to address 3 other systems at the same time. And HVAC is something that I've been coming into you and talking about, and we all know there's a great need there. Well, part of this system that we're replacing is what's actually the control part, some of the control part of that. And like I said, my failures this year have been on that side of it. We lost actually the entire building just because of one relay in this system that we didn't know was even tied into that HVAC system. And I really need to get that stuff separated out so that we actually have control of it in one way. And so from a buildings and grounds, looking at where I'm headed as far as total systems in that building, this is my first step. It's probably my highest priority as far as that building is to taking the next steps forward. Now, how that relates to you guys as far as academics and all the other things that go with it, this is figured into my budget. I mean, the money's there, and that would be the next step that I would recommend to move forward. We know the building's not going anywhere. It's going to be something that we're going to be utilizing, and HVAC is going to be the next thing that I'm bringing in, and if I have that front end part of it done, it's just going to make it easier for us as we go forward.
Well, is your opinion, if we don't do this soon, then it puts off upgrading the phones, it puts off upgrading cameras?
The phone system that we currently have, if it fails, we're going to be replacing that phone system. And with the way it's currently wired, it's going to basically limit us to one type of phone system at that point, unless we go ahead and pull the infrastructure in to support it a different way. And the phone system that we currently have does not support all the rooms. And this phone system would. So that's part of the expense that you're seeing. Every building in the district, every classroom has phones to the offices and to the classrooms, except with the exception of the high school. It has the smallest phone system in the district.
Okay, thanks.
That help, Mandy, or do I?
Yeah, it goes back to discussions that Paul has asked for, you know, the plan, for the facilities plan, and I just always go back to, like, I need like a ranking system. When I go to work every day, I'm like, okay, this is the most important thing, and then this, and then this, and then this, and I just fail to conceptualize that for the district, not even on academic needs and everything like that, but just facilities. Like, I need a list of, like, if this doesn't get fixed, we can't operate.
And the problem with it is it's dynamic, it's not static. Because 2 years ago, when I was standing up here, my plan on roofs was I was going to replace the classroom section of the middle school, and then I was going to do the gym and cafeteria section, and Roosevelt's roof started having failures, so all of a sudden that plan switched from being complete the middle school to Roosevelt falling halfway in between that. And that's part of the problem with having systems that are all about the same age throughout the entire district. You might have a plan that's static for you at that moment, but then it becomes dynamic because you have another system failure or that is failing, and that changes everything that you had planned. So that's the best way I can explain it. It's sort of fluid, and I'll try to bring you as much information and help you understand it the best I can. But
This is in your budget for this year?
it's in the budget for this year.
There is a plan, though.
There is a plan.
And even though it's static, like I agree a lot. Like, I wish there was just an easier formula for us as board members to be able to know the priorities of what's happening.
I just, yeah.
I mean, honestly,
I don't
do
like to
feel
put out
negative.
fires. I like to plan, which I
Yeah.
know you've been put in a position where you're putting out fires.
Yep, there's a lot of fires out
Yeah,
there.
I get it. That wasn't your
And
doing.
I've
so-
got a 4 or 5 year capital outlay plan, and I've brought it in before, and some of it I'm still on task with, and other pieces of it have changed on me. So,
I do have one other question. Is there any way that we can get the remaining bids needed for the phones and the video system, just so we kind of have a picture of what the whole project's going to look like?
I think you could probably take what you saw with the cameras and probably estimate that one out. I could probably get you an estimate on that. The phone system, there's a couple different ways to look at it, and I really want to go talk to some more people on this. we could purchase the equipment ourselves, house it ourselves, but a lot of districts are going back to leasing and having the equipment off-site. And I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently to you right now about it. I want to find some more information out and see what other districts are doing and then bring that back to you.
I
Because
feel like that's like a missing piece for me as well, because I don't know what the next, like, I don't know if that's, like a small budget item next, or if it's gonna be another $130,000.
well, and it could be something, I maybe misspoke a little bit on that as far as the phone system itself. It could be somewhat like the camera, because I just spoke to the fact that not every classroom right now has a phone in it. We could put the infrastructure in to have every classroom, and we can look at that budget, but I will get you a total budget for the entire system, whether we're leasing or how that looks, and bring that back to you. And then we'll look at our budget and see if it's something we can do in a year, or we replace what we currently have and then, or half of what we need, and then go put the other half in the next year. But I won't have that, I wouldn't have that in time to get it back to you and still get this done this summer if I waited.
That was my next question.
And that's, I was trying to address that back in, was it the February, no, it was the first March board meeting, because I was going to be gone. That me being gone fell in the wrong spot, but,
Okay. Anyone has more questions for Rusty or clarification needed? If not, looks like we're needing a motion.
Go ahead and make the motion.
Are you going with,
Option 1. Motion to approve option 1, next tech. It's a little better.
do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Young. Is there any further discussion or questions at this point? Okay, seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. No, it does not, because we don't have a quorum, so motion does not pass. Fails 3-2. I guess I would just say at this point, it's not something that I don't think we need to do. I just am missing some pieces of the puzzle, I guess. Is that?
I would agree. I feel like it's a more than just the concern over maintenance, though. I think it's in general often feeling like we don't have enough information, and I would hate for that to be the reason why we don't move forward on projects or hold that against Rusty for being held back. I mean, I fully believe that if we were given all the information and we saw it, from beginning to end and saw a full range thing, we would all agree that this was important and we all would vote yes.
I would agree. I guess my direction would be that I don't say this comes off the list, I just say it would be, we need some more information. And maybe that delays the project, but that's how it is, I guess. Sarah, do you want to, Rusty, did you say something else?
well, I was just going to come up and see if I could see what information you're wanting.
If there's any
and
way
then-
that it's still to meet your timeline, if you can get us those additional bids, so we know, like what I just asked.
So basically, the camera bid, you're good with just trying to figure out what that next step on the phone then?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to do my best.
Thank you.
May I ask, though, it wouldn't be bids that Rusty's getting, it'd be estimates that he's getting.
Figures.
Anything so we have something to
Okay.
work with on the total project.
Okay.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any requests for Rusty?
And Rusty, maybe a list as well. I mean, if you have, I realize it's not, like you said, it's not a static list, but even a fluid list of our bullet points of, hey, these are our lists, these are our items.
Yeah, and I realize that it's gonna change because of.
I know you had mentioned a couple years ago, I know one of our big things was the HVAC at, the middle school. We took that of me, but I would assume somewhere we have some sort of a list that says, hey, these are.
Well, I have
and I completely understand that things come up like,
Just an updated one. We don't ever get to see that. I know
just
you review it
something
with
that can
John,
give
but
us
if
an
you can
idea.
give us, like, this is my
What I have is
goals.
a spreadsheet, a 4-year
Perfect.
spreadsheet of capital outlay and sort of what I've got budgeted for.
And the facilities probably way better than we do just from working on it. Even if you have, your recommendation saying, hey, in my opinion, these are my top 3 things that are on my hot list that I want to get taken
But that
care
way,
of.
when we're trying to make decisions, we know, like, if something that's way down on your list, we're like, why are we moving forward on this when Rusty tells us that this is the most important thing?
Going back to that statement, I brought in, I think last fall, I'd have to go back to a board meeting and look for sure. The phone system was brought in a long time ago that this is a problem and it's coming up and we're gonna start working on it. So it would be one of my hot button subjects topics right now that I would be bringing into you. So I'll put that together, I'll see what I can get for a budget figure and I'll get back with you.
That would be great. Thank you, Rusty.
And I will help you. The reason why is because I want the board to also be aware, one thing, a little bit of repeat of what he said. If something would happen, part of our discussion was we didn't want to go back with the same kind of system that exists with the phones because it's still, you'd be putting bad money into a system of wiring.
I'm not
But
saying
if it-
that I don't think this is a good
Right.
project.
I know, but the summer, if he's able to get that information, and the board was still able to maybe act on it, and look at it again, because this is a project that has to be done in the summertime, okay? It really does. And the other issue is, everything could be fine. We could wait till next summer, maybe. But if something happened and the phone system did go down, we can fix it. We could fix it probably pretty fast, but we'd be putting money, we wouldn't be putting all the wiring in. We'd be creating a phone system just to patch it, and we'd be putting in a lot of money into something that we're then not happy with for the future to come. So we'll try to definitely have something for you before the next board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, the renaming of the Oak Park Medical Complex.
Yeah, an interesting topic. It came up as far as, and it's been mentioned before, but it was one that just was not that important until we're starting to think about signage. We get to a point where maybe in June we better know how we're gonna, what kind of signage we're gonna have in that area. We have ECC. We don't really want to what is that? Brand, thank you. We don't want to rebrand ECC. We want them to use what they have. But the issue is one where ECC is not the only part of that facility. And so it's really not appropriate to just have a big sign out in front that says this is ECC building. So that is something we're starting in our discussions. It wasn't a matter of any kind of recommendation that I have or anybody else has at this point. I just wanted the board to be aware it is, for some people, it's really a very important thing of naming facilities, of having a name for it. We've gotten all kinds of conversation on it, but it could be as simple as just a very generic, it could be a very generic name for that facility, and maybe that's best. You can have generic, you can end up identifying people's names on buildings and that, and you can do all kinds of things with it, but I'm just saying we're starting the process. We would like to end up having this done at the latest June. So just wanted you to be, I'm sorry, I didn't agree.
Sorry,
I wasn't trying to be funny.
No, I'm giving Lance a hard time. I'm like, you have your name on enough buildings. To that point, Greg, when he called me earlier to let me know that he wouldn't be here tonight, he did say that in the past, and I don't know because I've never been around when the 489 has done this, but he said that they usually do reach out to the community and the community helps give some feedback on naming the building. So
and that can be done.
That's all he said. So
yeah, it can be done that way too. So it's we haven't really done anything at this point except our own
One thing we had talked about when we walked through, and I was hoping for too, is I mean, we're talking tonight really about naming the whole complex is one thing, but I also think you have some individuality in those 4 buildings there too. You know, we talked about doing some sort of a theme thing or something else, but as we're walking through, calling these buildings 4 and 3 and 2, and they're not actually in order either. Let's point that out as well. It doesn't make sense when you talk about it. I was just like, man, we need to name these something else, and that's, you know, I mean, that to me would be really neat too. You know, I mean, if this building might be more early childhood connections, it could have a theme or something with that, or something else. So.
Right. That's a very good point, because there's 4 buildings, and they each could have their own identifier that's going to be a lot better than 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right.
And even from a practical standpoint, you know, you would say, well, I'm going to go to this location, but there's still 4 separate buildings. You'd still need to identify them in some proper way to know which one. And it'd be neat to have some sort of a neat name system with it.
Well, the existing facility has some pretty good signage, you know, when you walk around there, with identifying where the different business, you know, the different offices were, and I'd say we probably need something similar to that to help people get to where they're trying to get.
Moving on, Hayes High School Pathways and Career Technical Education. We have John Lynn here, Assistant Principal at Hayes High.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight and update you on the CTE programs at Hayes High School. It's been a very, very good year for CTE. Let me make sure I learn how to do this. Okay. Early in the year, I wanted to personalize what we offer at Hayes High School. And we have specific clusters and we have specific pathways that Hayes High offers. So I got with Heath Mater, our art graphic teacher, and told him what I wanted. And I wanted something specific to what we offer. So this diagram here shows the 9 different clusters and the 9 different pathways that we offer at Hayes High. Now, I'm hoping that changes at some point in time, but again, I wanted to personalize what we offer at Hayes High. So just quickly, CTE provides our students of all ages with academic and technical skills, knowledge, and the training necessary to succeed in future careers and to become lifelong learners. It prepares these learners for the world of work by introducing them to workplace competencies, and makes academic content accessible to students by providing it in a hands-on content. So I want to talk quickly about how that has changed recently. And I found some numbers out here on how CTE has changed since 14 and 15. And there's a reason why these numbers have gone up. Back in 14-15, the enrollment in secondary was 53,000. This is nationwide. And in a matter of 2 years, it's more than doubled. And it's because of the increased emphasis placed on making these connections between what our students are learning in school and the skills they need in post-secondary education. And schools are seeing the benefit for all students, not only in Kansas, but nationwide. Kansas is, or the yellow nationwide is to the right, but the numbers have increased dramatically, and they have increased at Hayes High School as well. So last year, at the end of the school year, we had 702 student seat times enrolled in our CTE classes. That was a little over 30,000 contact minutes at 0.5. At the beginning of this school year, in the fall, we jumped to 890 student seat times enrolled in our CTE courses. And in the spring, we jumped that to 998. And it's made a dramatic increase, and I think that number is going to continue to go up. These totals do include introductory classes. The introductory classes are they're not funded, but they are part of the pathway completion, and you have to have the introductory classes before you move on. As far as the program for next year, there are no major changes to the CTE programs. All the pathways have been updated as of March 15th, and they've been sent off to the state for approval. And so why is CTE important for Hayes High School? Well, lots of reasons. Obviously, Hayes high school graduation rate nationally for CTE concentrators is about 90%, which is 50% higher than the national average. 99% of Kansas CTE high school students graduated, and the Kansas average was 86%. 99% met performance goals for technical skills, and those competencies have to be met for every pathway. And 93% of high school CTE graduates in Kansas enroll in college, enlist in the military, or work within 6 months. And I want to tell you, the reason why we've had such an increase is the emphasis that is put on CTE classes, not only by our instructors, but by our counselors. Last year, we started the career cruising program, and the career cruising has gone a long ways into emphasizing the pathways that we have at Hayes High. Hayes High School uses this site as a tool for students to explore their education and career options, and this begins in the 8th grade when students take what they call their interest inventory. And we take those results, they're explored, and then connections are made between the potential career areas and the courses that we offer at Hayes High School. And this is done each year as interests change. So they do take the interest inventory every year, because obviously we know that their interests are going to change a little. But the results help to place students in classes and to place students in pathways. Along with the counselors, teachers, and parents' input, it assists students in making informed decisions when selecting their courses in high school. In addition, utilizing career cruising helps our students build their resumes with emphasis on school and community involvement. And these resumes are constantly updated every year. And Hayes High School has implemented student-led conferences where students lead the discussion about results from career cruising, meetings with teachers and counselors, and then course selection pathways. And again, I have to give kudos to our counselors, number one, because we have placed an emphasis on placing kids in these classes and getting them in the correct pathways. And those discussions are starting earlier and earlier when these kids are younger, and now when they're in junior high. Back in July, President Trump passed the new Perkins 5 Act, and it provides about $1.3 billion annually in federal funding. And again, the vision is to expand opportunities for every student to explore, choose, and follow career and technical education programs of study and career pathways, and to earn credentials of value. This next year, we're going to be transitioning from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. And in the state of Kansas, it's going to be called the transition year, and everything is basically going to remain the same while they get everything put in place for the following school year. So these are some of our goals for CTE at Hayes High School. Our goals are to continue to increase student enrollment in CTE courses through educating students, communication, and additional resources. I will tell you now, most of our CTE classes are full. We have turned kids away at younger ages. Obviously, they have opportunities as they get older to take the classes, but we have to turn kids away because we're full in a lot of our CTE classes. Another goal is to continue building relationships between school, parents and guardians, business and industry, about the importance of career and technical education and the opportunities provided by participation in these pathways. To continue our successes in our CTSOs, our student organizations, FFA, DECA, HHITA, didn't get to finish that part up there, that's why there's a typo, but we have a lot of organizations that I really want to talk about. You hear a lot about state champions in sports and athletics, but we don't hear a lot about state champions in the classroom and state champions in these organizations. And our organizations have gone on to state programs and state opportunities, and they've done very well. And we have multiple state champions at Hayes High School in these programs. And you saw one earlier in the tribe broadcasting that was brought up earlier. So These programs are very, very beneficial and are just tremendous opportunities for our students. And then again, to continue to pursue grant opportunities provided by Carl Perkins funds. You know about a couple of these. Perkins Reserve Grant for $1,550 was awarded to Kurt Viner, and that was earlier in the year to be certified in the use of drones in ag. And then another reserve grant was awarded to Nathan Howard of over $29,000 to purchase the plasma cutting system. And just this last Friday, we found out that Nathan Howard and Chris Dinkle were awarded $2,000 reserve grants. Nathan's was to purchase a multi-process welder that is AC/DC, and Chris Dinkle's was to purchase a large format printer for his AutoCAD 1 and 2, his architectural design, wood production, research and design classes. And we just found out about that on Friday. And we're taking every opportunity we can to find these grants and have our teachers apply for them. We have been turned down for some this year, but we've also received some very good grants to help our programs out. And we're going to continue to look for those resources and those opportunities. And then the next one is to add pathways in the highest need areas. And I think this has been something that has been talked about in the past. The highest need areas are teacher training and health science. And I've gone to several workshops this year, and that is one goal of mine as we progress through next school year, is to find the resources that we need to add a couple more pathways to our program. And that again will help us increase our numbers in pathways. So we have a lot of good things going on, a lot of great teachers who do a great job with their kids in these programs, and I'm very proud to speak for them tonight because they do a tremendous job. So, questions?
Yeah, I want to thank your team for pursuing the external funding to spread our dollars out better. And I'm wondering, what is it that we can do at the board to help you expand these programs, or what you might need us to be looking at to help you move this all forward?
Well, several of the resources that we're going to be looking at is instructors. Whether or not we have enough instructors. I know at one time they did have 3 industrial ed instructors. We're down to 2. And so that limits us. We do have the room available down there to increase half-time or full-time another instructor to add some more classes in the welding, woods area down there. Again, I'm going to be looking at articulation agreements with Fort Hays and NCK and other areas to see if we can utilize some of their programs to help us add these additional pathways. So those conversations I've started, and I'm going to continue to have. So it's basically looking at resources, whether or not we have the classrooms available, whether or not we have the teachers available to pursue these programs and to add them into our pathways at Hays High, with the limited resources that we have, with the limited teachers that we have right now.
And with the Perkins 5 funding, what other funding opportunities are there that'll come up to the district?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know what all the new Perkins funding is going to give to us. They said there's going to be more monies available to us next year. I've not seen that yet. I have not seen those numbers.
So I just wondered, and maybe part is to see if they do support in some way to expand the teaching base, particularly given you say your demand is at capacity. It does make sense to do that.
Yes.
And it fits very well.
Yes.
And just so you know, Fort Hays is actually one of the, we've gotten approval from KSD to do some transfer credits, particularly if you do the teaching cluster.
Yes.
So you might talk to me at some point.
We'll have some good conversations about that. Yes.
Thank you for this tonight. It's very exciting. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for students, and I happen to have a junior, so I see a lot of this firsthand. It blows my mind because it's been a while since I've been in high school, but it's just, there's so many more opportunities and there's so much more driven, and you talked about the career cruising and some of this other stuff. There's so much more testing and focus to really kind of tell them this is something you're interested in. This is an area you should pursue, and I think it really opened his eyes for maybe some things that he wasn't really looking at, and I know from my perspective, I was sitting there going, well, is this something I like? Is this not? You have all these opportunities and all this stuff to really show you, and so many opportunities to just try this stuff before you get to the college level or something else to really help plan things out. So
I really like the focus it places on the path.
yeah,
Starting at a young age.
yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Shanna with the KISA update.
Yes, this will be super quick, but April will be a busy month, has been a busy month. Just an update on KISA. We've heard from every building, I think, but Lincoln, and I think you heard it. It makes me proud to hear the buildings talk about KISA and what's happening at their buildings. This isn't just something we do up here in this office and tell them what needs to be done, but it's really from the classroom level up, because that's where the impact needs to be for students. And so that's been exciting. So the buildings, I'm proud of the work they've done. We are drafting the district plan to make sure our goals are all encompassing so that the building plans fit underneath those. This Wednesday we have early release. Some of the building time we'll be talking about KISA and revisiting what our systems are doing at all levels to help meet the definition of a successful high school graduate. The academic cognitive, the employability, the technical, the civic engagement. So that conversation will be happening at all buildings about what we do at every level to help meet our students' definition for a successful high school graduate. And then April 29th is when our visiting team will come here to the district and we will have our visit. We have a district site council next Monday, and then our district leadership team will meet next Wednesday. So we'll iron out those details. I know, Mike, you are on our district site council, and as a board member, I'm hoping you can, I'll send you the schedule for that day, attend lunch. We're wanting to do a lunch where we have some of the stakeholder groups, so district site council, we thought that might be a good time to do in West Side, the Learning Center, KBC, some of those different entities outside of our regular traditional brick and mortar. We do a lot with connections and that school readiness for kindergarten, so we're going to kind of have a working lunch, but hoping that you can attend. If any of the rest of you would like to attend, let me know and I'll let you know what time that will be. Lunch would be a good time to attend. And then we will follow up with what the visiting team has shared and what our next steps are. So I just wanted to keep you guys abreast of the developments and the happenings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe Sarah could send out the invitation,
Sure.
time of that,
We'll
so we
send
could
you the
accept that. That'd be good.
Thanks, Shanna.
Good.
All right. Is there any other discussion or agenda requests?
Just an affirmation that the special board meeting to discuss the facility needs was scheduled for June 3rd at 6 p.m.
Okay. And yeah, you're gonna need to send me a reminder on that.
I'll send out the calendar.
Like 2 months.
Not on the calendar? We'll see.
Yeah. All right, and I don't believe we need an executive session tonight, and so go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.